Joining me now to discuss this is Dr. Richard Giordano, author of Ineptitude, Conformity, and Obfuscation, the fraud of teacher evaluation in our public schools. Dr. Giordano, thank you for joining us on the program. Let's start here. You were a school principal for 26 years, and we're seeing tens of thousands of teachers demanding a pay raise in Los Angeles. Do they all deserve it?
Well, it's an interesting thing, Andrew, because I think it's all about controlling the narrative. And of course, they want, as George Meany said when asked about union activities many years ago, what do you want? He said one word: we want more. And the teachers want more pay. They want more aides. They want more librarians. The only thing they want less of are students. And I don't think it's so much about how much they're being paid for what they're doing, is how much are they doing for what they're being paid. And when you have only 32% of the LA students meeting the minimum state requirements in math and 42% meeting the minimum in reading or in English language arts, I'm not sure what they're doing is worthy of more pay.
We chose to do this segment wrapped around a discussion of the government shutdown. But the media is not calling this a partial government shutdown in Los Angeles, but it is what's considered by many an essential service. And this is part of the problem with giving the government such a monopoly as it would over education. And it's also an argument for discussing, let's say, I don't know, private schools or school vouchers or school choice, that if these teachers are asking more and you're saying that maybe some of them don't deserve it or some of them might not be well in an evaluation, this would give parents more of a, I guess, power to make better decisions for their children as it relates to their education.
Well, I think one of the additional things that you've probably read, as have I, is that one of the demands, I would say, of these teachers is also, let's be honest, to reduce and or eliminate the charter school issue, which is an adjunct to the kinds of things that you were just talking about, giving parents choice. And if you can eliminate the competition and your only act in town, then you're exactly that, the only act in town, the only force to be reckoned with. And I don't think there's any question but what public education has been in demise for decades now. I was a principal, as you say, for many years, and I've recognized that. I started teaching in the last century in 1964, and I taught 4 years. I was a principal in 5 different districts. I evaluated hundreds of teachers. And part of the problem, of course, I knew this the first day I started working as a principal, was that I wasn't competent. I was inept. That's why the ineptitude part of the book title. I was inept to do that, both in content area and in pedagogy, what's being taught and how it's being taught. And, you know, I haven't seen anything since. I finished my career in Boulder Valley Schools in Boulder, Colorado. I was there for 5 years, and I haven't seen anything, quite frankly, that has changed that dynamic.
Well, let me ask you this before we get to some of the subject matter of your book. If the government monopolizes a service, then doesn't deliver it very well and is asking for more taxpayer dollars to deliver it, it's kind of hard to push back on that wave of people who want to make more choices. And when you have an issue like tenure, and I want to go to that right now, when teachers can't be fired, that becomes a problem in evaluating teachers. Doesn't matter how you evaluate them, you can't fire them.
No, that's exactly correct. And it's a closed game, so to speak. I mentioned the only act in town. And if you're successful as an entity, i.e. The teachers union, and becoming the only act in town, you control the narrative completely. And of course, that's what the end game is. And then you continue to ask for more. And you, quite frankly, I see the schools delivering less. And what they're delivering, I don't believe for a minute, is what most parents, most reasonably oriented parents would want for their students to be learning. The curriculum in the schools
Well, it's
today,
nice when you can't make a choice, right? If you got a monopoly and you're the government. Let me go to something in the book, though. Political correctness has kind of corrupted the school system. I mean, any quick search on the internet, you could find stories of teachers who are saying all kinds of things in their classrooms, largely having nothing to do with the subjects they're supposed to be teaching. In other words, they're wasting the kids' time.
Well, there are many, many agendas now that are brought in by outside agents into the schools And political correctness is, I think, going to become a pretty antiquated term pretty soon because it's so pervasive that it's become almost ludicrous. We have one of the chapters in the book, I discuss things that fly under the radar, and they fall under the rubric of political correctness, I suppose. One of them is this incredible push in the public schools and the agencies that are adjuncts to the public schools with regard to this whole transgender issue. And that is strictly an advocate pushed position. And teachers, you probably saw a teacher recently on the news that was fired for refusing to use the quote unquote correct pronouns. Now, I don't know what that has to do with biology or with chemistry or physics or teaching language arts, but that is a huge, huge impact on the culture of a school.
Let me wrap with this. Washington, D.C. is a good example. You have a political class that constantly promotes public education, and you see this in the states as well, especially in the capitals of the states. You have people that call themselves public school advocates, or they organize the teachers union, but when it comes to their own kids, and I remember the Chicago Tribune years ago did a study that almost 50% of Chicago public school officials sent their own kids to private school. So when you have this government service that we're told we have to have, it's got to be monopolized by the government, and the political class that taxes us for it, they refuse to send their own kids to the schools that they say are just good enough for our kids. How is that fair, and what could parents do?
Well, it's summed up by the what's wrong with this picture, the goose got four legs. And what parents can do, and I mentioned this in the book, Andrew. One of my gravest concerns when I was a principal, and it continues to be as I'm no longer in that field, is that parents need to become active, and they need to go to school board members' meetings, and they need to let those board members know what they want. Otherwise, board positions are largely political positions, as you probably know. A lot of board members seek political office after that, their positions. You're aware of that. The small towns, not so much, but they're all political. And they need to represent the will of the mass of people, not the special interests that put pressure and threaten. And that's what parents need to do. It comes down to what they call the grassroots. And the grassroots have been wilting in the past decades, and they need to become invigorated to where parents start demanding that schools teach their children what they want them to teach their children.
Well, I will get in line for anybody who can give parents more choice. Whatever gives parents more latitude and more choices to influence their kids' education, I'm all for that. But Dr. Giordano, I got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.